So as silver and gold are able to hold their own right now, build this base as we move into the rest of the year, when the laws of mathematics come home to roost, we're going to see turmoil in issues like never before. Can you use your imagination and believe that the gold and silver price are in a sweet spot right now? You probably heard the economy is strong. Inflation's coming down. We're going to take a look at those two narratives, those big stories that we got this week, and how they feed into the fact that we could very well be in a sweet spot for the silver price and the gold price. Now, we know the silver price and gold price have stabilized. We've had gold holding above $2,000 per ounce for what seems like an eternity. Silver in the range of $22 to $24 per ounce for a long time as well. Both of the metals seem to have stabilized. Are they building a base right now? Are we in a sweet spot from which prices could catapult much, much higher? Are you hearing more people talking about $3,000 gold, silver, $50, $75, some people even talking about $100 silver? Let's take a look at these big stories, this supposed strong GDP that we have. Let's take a look at the inflation numbers, and let's see how they're going to impact things like the Federal Reserve decisions going forward, and how we could be in for much, much higher prices in the precious metals. Fortuna Silver Mines is a global intermediate gold and silver producer. Since 2005, Fortuna's best-in-class management has delivered impressive growth and profits. Fortuna's solid financial position and operational expertise allows for performance in any precious metals price cycle and provides a foundation from which to harvest great profits in more favorable metals markets. Investing in Fortuna is an investment in quality, long-term, sustainable production of in-demand precious and base metals. Right now, they're trying to tell you that the economy is strong. Inflation is coming down. I know we all feel that in our day-to-day lives, right? Ha, ha. But under this scenario, it's going to be very difficult for the Fed to institute any form of monetary tightening. Monetary tightening is bad for the price of silver and gold. So under the best of scenarios, if we believe we have a strong GDP, if we believe that inflation is coming down, we are at worst case scenario from a monetary policy perspective in neutral. But let's take a look at these numbers. Let's have a little fun. GDP supposedly was blowout during the fourth quarter, exceeded expectations. One of the most hilarious things I've read in a long, long time was the fact that recreational vehicle sales supposedly had a significant contributing factor to this big GDP number. And our friends at Zero Hedge pointed out something that was hilarious. They said basically Americans can't afford to buy houses anymore, so they're buying RVs and moving into RVs on a full-time basis. So if you're joining me from your new recreational vehicle right now, thank you for being here. Please give this video a thumbs up. We want to get the word out about silver and gold to as many people as possible. And even from your RV, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, got involved, left a comment in the comment section below. The other crazy thing about these GDP numbers is the fact that if you examine the amount of GDP growth, which was something like $350 billion, it was far exceeded by the increase to our government's deficit during that same period. The government borrowed almost twice as much money as the GDP number grew. And if you look at total debt, that was accrued during that period, it's almost 3 times as much. So we're in kind of a spiral situation right now where we're borrowing a lot more money but getting minuscule benefit from it. Now let's move over to these inflation numbers. The PCE, that's the Federal Reserve's favorite inflation measuring tool. Something interesting about that, because that's coming down, right? The Fed's winning the fight on inflation, which is good, in a weird way for you and I, silver and gold investors, because if they're supposedly beating inflation, it's going to make it very difficult for them to raise rates. Again, that's building to this base that we're seeing in the gold price and the silver price right now. But what's funny about the PCE number is this. It measures inflation, but it excludes 2 things, just 2 small things that don't really impact our day-to-day lives. Things like energy and food cost are excluded from the PCE indicator. So sure, the Fed will say, yeah, we're winning the fight on inflation as long as you don't need to eat or use any energy to transport yourself or heat or cool your home. All of this adds up to an environment where, in terms of what they're telling us, in terms of the narrative that our government is giving to us, everything's rosy and dandy out there. But think about it. 2 things. When you look under the hood, when you examine things like GDP growth, when you examine things like these inflation numbers, you and I know it's a much different story. So as silver and gold are able to hold their own right now, build this base as we move into the rest of the year, when the laws of mathematics come home to roost, we're going to see turmoil in issues like never before, from a monetary situation, from an economic situation, and the Federal Reserve will be forced to act in a big, big way. Let's remember that as we've gone through these last 15, 20 years, every time a crisis pops up, they always tend to be a little bigger. They escalate in size and severity, and the Fed reacts much more quickly. This time when they react, right, we're going to see a reaction in the silver price and gold price that I think could leave a lot of our heads spinning. The other factor that we're not even mentioning yet at this point is a geopolitical situation in the world, right? The BRICS plus, the level of war going on in the world. That's the other factor, the black swan type event that could also act as a big catalyst outside of what the United States is doing on its own, unfortunately, to destroy itself. We have the rest of the world kind of binding together to form an alliance that isn't real keen on the U.S. dollar, isn't real keen on geopolitical developments that have occurred over the last number of decades. I think that we are moving into a year, 2 years, where we could see events like we never imagined. Let's hope that we're all safe, right? We choose to protect ourselves with things like silver and gold. If you want to get your hands on some silver or gold, what a great time for me to recommend you go check out Pimbex. They sponsor this channel. They make videos like this possible. But what's most important is they are an online bullion dealer that prides themselves in having the most competitive prices, the best service, and the best selection. I've used Pimbex over the last few years to buy silver and gold. I just would encourage you, throw them in the mix next time you're shopping for some bullion. I think you'll find what I found. Pimbex is best. Hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me in the basement. I want you to come back. Don't forget, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and what the heck, go watch another Ron's Basement video. Have a great day.